Hi, this is expected value section 11.3, and we're going to talk about what does this mean and how to figure it out using mathematics. So first of all, you have to understand what probability is. If you don't understand that, please go back and watch section 11.3 covering it, because this is going to expect you to know how to do that. And if you don't know how to do that, it's going to affect everything in this section. So for starters, expected value is your expectation as a person or as a company to either have a gain or a loss as the final outcome. So in terms of a formula, if we're talking about business, expected value, or EV, equals the probability that event E is a success plus the probability that event E is a failure minus break even. So let's talk about that for a moment. If your expected value is positive, then the company will profit or you should go for it. So positive means that's a good thing. Your values, if it's money, is going to be positive. If your expected value result is negative, then the company will not profit or you should not go for it. If your expected value turns out to be a negative number, that means the company's going to lose money. And what happens if it's zero? That means the company breaks even. Most companies will usually go for it because that's usually seen as a good thing. So the expected value formula basically is written up above, but just as a reminder, it is expected value equals the probability that the event is a success plus the probability that the event is not successful or failed minus the break even. So guys, break even is always zero because you won't win or lose any money on that. And remember, if it's a success, then it's going to be positive. If it's not a success, it's going to be negative. All right, so let's check out this first example and see this in action. The example says JetBlue Airlines is considered adding a route from Boston to Minneapolis. Before making a decision, the company needs to consider how many factors, including potential profit or loss. After considering research, JetBlue estimates that if it adds the route, there is a 60% chance of making an annual $800,000 profit, a 10% chance of breaking even, and a 30% chance of losing $1 million. How much can JetBlue expect to make annually on this new route? By the way, if you see this on a test question, if it says expect to make, that's expected value. See how I have that highlighted there? And also, it says including potential profit or loss. So this company is trying to decide if they should add this certain route, and they want to figure it out before they do it because they want to see if it's going to be worth their time and money. So once again, expected value formula is the probability that the airline is going to profit plus the probability that they're going to lose money plus break even. So if we read the problem, it says they have a 60% chance of making $800,000 profit. So for the first one, I'm taking $800,000, that's the amount they're going to make, times the probability of 60%. Now I need to figure out the loss. It says in the problem that there's a 10% chance of breaking even and a 30% chance of losing $1 million. I'm going to put a negative sign on that loss because they're losing money on that $1 million, and I'm multiplying it by the probability that's going to happen, which is 30%. Finally, I'm going to add in the break even. They're going to make no money if they break even, but there's a 10% chance of doing so, so it's 0 times 10%. And by the way, you don't even have to write this piece down for breaking even because anything times 0 is always 0. Okay, so I got to change my percentages to decimals. So I'm going to take 60% and turn it into 0.60. And I'm also going to change 30% and move it to 0.30. So what does this look like? I get 800,000 times 0.60 minus 1 million times 0.3 plus 0 times 0.10. So 800,000 times 0.60 equals 48,000. 1 million times 0.3 is 300,000. And then 0 times 10 is 0. So we get 480,000 minus 3,000, and we get 180,000. That is the result. So since this result is positive, that means that JetBlue will profit and should add the route. By the way, if your answer that you got right here was negative, then that means that that company should not go for it and should not add the route. Okay, let's look at another example here. So this is example number 2, test-taking strategy. Maria is taking a multiple choice exam in which there are 5 possible answers for each question. The instructor indicates that she will be awarded 2 points for each correct response, and that she'll lose a half a point for each incorrect response, and that no points will be added or subtracted for answers left blank. Okay, part A. If Maria does not know the correct answer to the question, is it in her advantage or disadvantage to guess the answer? So for part A, once again, I don't know that without doing the expected value formula. So for this one, it's kind of like the same thing with the business. We're going to do the positive one. So the positive one is she gets points, right? So those points will be positive. So that's a profit. And then we're going to multiply that by the probability that that profit's going to happen. Plus, we need to figure out how many points she loses. That'll be negative times the probability that happens, plus no points are added or subtracted. That's called breaking even. So if we put it in the expected value formula, we get 2 times, because remember she gets 2 points for each correct answer, and that's right here, awarded 2 points. And then she's going to lose a half a point for a wrong answer, so that's why this piece here is negative. And then she doesn't get any points added or subtracted for answers left blank, so that's our break even, which we can see here. So to be able to do this, I need the probabilities of each one. My sample space is 5 because there are 5 possible answers. So the probability of answering a question correct would be 1 out of 5, because there's only one answer that's correct, the rest of them are wrong. So 1 out of 5, or 1/5, if I do the math, that equals 0.02%. Then I need to work on the probability of guessing the question wrong. Well, there are 4 wrong answers out of the 5. So I get 4 out of my sample space, which is 5. So that's 0.08%. And finally, the probability of breaking even or no points being added or subtracted is 0. So 0 out of 5 is 0. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take these probabilities and I'm going to plug them in my formula next to the profit, the loss, and the breaking even. So remember, the profit is the 2 points awarded, so positive 2 times the percentage that she's going to get that rate, or the probability that she gets that rate is 0.2. And then the loss, she loses a half a point, and the probability that that'll happen is 0.8. So if I multiply 2 times 0.2, I get 0.4. Plus, if I multiply -1/2 times 0.8, I get -0.4. So what happens with this is I get a 0 as an answer. So that means that it isn't in her advantage or in her disadvantage to guess. But if I were her, I'd probably go ahead and guess because it doesn't hurt either way. So we did part A. Now we need to do part B. Part B says if she can eliminate one of the possible choices, it is to her advantage or disadvantage to guess an answer. Well, for part B, we know that this is going to affect my sample space. So my sample space drops down to 4 now. And this will affect my probability. So let's talk about that probability first before we plug into the expected value formula. So the probability that she will get it correct, since there's only one answer out of the 4 that's correct, is 1 out of 4, or 0.25. The probability that she guesses it wrong is 3 out of 4, because 3 of the answer choices are wrong out of the 4, or 0.75. So if I plug in these values, I get 2 points awarded for a correct answer times the probability of that happening, which is 0.25%, plus the probability that she loses points is 0.75, and I'm going to multiply that by negative 1/2. Now you might see here I changed negative 1/2 to negative 0.5, and what I'm going to do now is multiply this together. So 2 times 0.25 is 0.5, and negative 0.5 times negative 0.75 equals negative 0.375. Now, the breaking even 0, because once again, she doesn't get points for guessing or not guessing. So, what I have to do is multiply 2 times 0.25 to get 0.5, and negative 0.5, times 0.75 to get negative 0.375. And when I do that, my expected value is not really, it's positive. So my answer is positive 0.125. It's positive, so she should go for it, and she should guess at her answer. It is to her advantage with only 4 answer choices. All right, so that's going to be the end of the first video. I will pick up on this next page on the second video.